So thank you, Michael. Please just have a seat real quick here.
How are you? It's nice to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that Michael is one of the foremost media experts. In fact, anytime something happens in the media, his name is mentioned. If you were to Google him, or if you were to go to Google News, or you were to look on the internet, you'd see him mentioned every time anyone is wanting to know about anything. And in fact, Michael is best known for writing the book on public relations. One of his books was called Guerrilla PR, which was a phenomenal read. I recommend everybody read that. But before I go into that, Michael, you've made television appearances. You've represented some of the very best. You've represented some of the very craziest, I would say, and some very interesting people. Can you share with our audience a little bit about who you've represented?
Sure. Is this on? Doesn't sound like it's on, so I'll Good morning. Thank you so much, and thank you. What a fantastic introduction. It's an honor to be here. I have had a very unusual life, Ryan, just like you, and unprepared for, and I've represented some very well-known people who I think most of you will know. Some of you will, some of you won't. I'm going to try it out on you. May I do that? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do some well-known names and see how many of you know them. And so you mentioned Michael Jackson and Barbra Streisand.
I don't think I did mention them. Has anyone ever heard of Michael Jackson
Michael
or Barbra
Jackson
Streisand?
and Barbra Streisand and Charlton Heston, Nancy Kerrigan and Demi Moore and Michael Fox.
Now, I understand that you've also represented some people that maybe have a little bit of power in the world.
Well, I did. I have, for some weird, wacky reason, had the opportunity of advising 3 presidents.
3 presidents?
3 presidents. And just to prove to the nice people here that I'm a hooker, both parties. So I'm a hooker. But you know, Ryan,
I would never call him that. That was his words, not mine.
Ryan, I grew up in a different culture. I grew up in a time when the President of the United States asked you to do something, you said, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President. You didn't say, well, I don't know if I can do that. So I've represented Demi Moore and Sandra Bullock and Cameron Diaz and Bill O'Reilly and Ozzy Osbourne and Jon Stewart and Dave Chappelle and Suzanne Summers and a whole host of others. It's been an unusual life.
Has anyone ever heard of these people, out of curiosity? So, Michael, I have a question. You've represented these individuals, but what made you decide to actually write books? Did you go to an Ivy League school? Was this something that, were you a good writer growing up? Tell me about this.
Well, to answer your question about Ivy League school, I didn't. I went to another. One of the great sayings of my life, Ryan, is Mark Twain's quote. Mark Twain had a quote that really has guided my life, and Mark Twain said, I never let school interfere with my education. And I never let school interfere with my education. Did you? No, I never let school interfere with my education. I had no preparation. And writing a book, for those of you, most people in the world haven't done it. Let me, if I may, share with you what it's like. It's kind of like putting a message in a bottle and throwing it out into the ocean. And what I mean by that is you never really know who's going to see it, if it's going to be seen, and I couldn't have imagined when I wrote a book 15 years ago that I'd be sitting with you here today, that you might have read it, and other people will too.
Now, one of the books that you've written, which I'm in awe of, and it just came out recently by Warner Books, as I understand it, and you can find it on the Path Connect profile, on his A-list profile, is called Broken Windows, Broken Business. Yes. Now, for those of you who have read the book, The Tipping Point, this book takes the tipping point to the next level and actually examines the process of this criminal justice theory on businesses. So can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yes, and thank you very much for asking me. And if I may share this with you, I really believe it to be important. People, each of you possess a mind, and the mind that you possess has a logical or conscious part. And it also has an emotional or subconscious part. And these two parts of your mind are in an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, titanic, constant, never-ending arm wrestle with each other. So the logical, which is the conscious, and the emotional, which is the subconscious, are constantly, never-endingly arm wrestling. And about 80% of the time, the emotional part of the brain or the mind wins that arm wrestle. But in my book that I just wrote, that you were so nicely noted, I make a point that that victory of emotion over logic about 80% of the time ceases to happen when a human being, you or anyone here or me or anyone you know, your brother, sister, cousin, lover, friend, is either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. When a human is hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, the emotional part of the brain wins that titanic arm wrestle 100 times out of 100. And so we humans who are increasingly hungry, angry, lonely, and tired are making more and more and more and more and more of our decisions with the emotional part of the brain. We're not buying what we need, we're buying what we want. Yeah. And if you don't believe me, why don't you go outside and ask some kid with an iPod if they bought it because it's what they need or what they want. And that's the contribution, I believe, or one of the contributions of this book, Broken Windows, Broken Business. That people are making decisions with the emotional part of their brain very often. That little things, little indicators, little innocuous things have big information signals.
So now, Michael, in our businesses, we talk a lot about monitoring the details, about focusing on the smallest little things. Is that not what the message of Broken Windows, Broken Business is?
It sure is, and monitoring is a fine word. I would like to create some more drama around that because, you know, humans need drama. I think we need not to monitor the details. I think we need to create an obsessive, compulsive relationship with them because they are going to be our salvation or our damnation. It is those little things that are going to either put us in the Super Bowl or not.